So, the practice of mindfulness. So, as many of you probably are aware, there's a lot of talk about mindfulness. You just open pretty much any magazine or paper these days, there will be often something about mindfulness, and there's a lot of people practicing and teaching, and there's a lot of science going on right now. A lot of science about what happens in the brain when we practice mindfulness. What is it good for? And I think for most of us, we approach mindfulness training from you might call it a therapeutical perspective. We simply want to feel better. So we want some tools to handle the stress in our lives. We want tools to maybe work with our own suffering and alleviate our suffering. And that's also, if you look at mindfulness in the Western psychological perspective, that's where it squarely fits. But in this course, we will be looking at mindfulness from a Buddhist perspective, where it actually originated. It originated from the Buddhist tradition, and as you can, just look at the surrounding. It looks very Buddhist, right? So, but at least my intention is for this to not be religious in any way. You don't have to believe anything special. You don't have to adhere to any specific worldview or creed. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate with Buddhism in general. It's actually a very scientific approach. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says that Buddhism is the science of the mind. So everything that we will be going through is meant to be radically empirical. Something that we can put it to the test and then see what happens when we do that. So it's hopefully whatever I talk about will make enough sense for you so that you can try it out and then find the benefits for yourself. But I think one thing that is good as a starting point, and if we're going to take something from the Buddhist perspective, it might be one very important idea. And that idea is that the happiness and the suffering that we experience, it doesn't really have external causes if you look at it deeply and fundamentally. So, for example, say that I'm waiting for the bus and the bus is late. So what usually happens? It's very late, and you're very late for that very important meeting. So what would happen in your mind?
Get irritated.
You'll get irritated.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's not very nice. It's not happiness. It's more suffering, being very irritated and angry, and all these stories running through our heads. And so there I am, the bus is late, I'm very irritated, and then next to me is another person. They also have a meeting, they're also late, bus is also late, but they're very calm, happy, just enjoying themselves. And I think from my perspective, I'm blaming my own anger, my own irritation, my own frustration on the bus, right? Or the bus company. So my sense is my suffering is coming from the outside. The bus is late, so of course I'm upset. But that doesn't explain then the person sitting next to me is just very calm and peaceful, because the bus for him or her is equally late. So the basic idea here is that the only way to become genuinely happy, and the only way to do something lasting about our suffering, is really to work on our minds. Because from the Buddhist idea is that suffering really comes from anger and jealousy and pride and greed, and for that matter, low self-esteem and all the other things. But these are all mental factors. Whereas happiness and well-being fundamentally comes from positive qualities of mind, such as generosity and kindness and openness and calm and maybe even wisdom and so on. So does that idea make sense? And isn't it also true, though, that even though we can intellectually have this idea, this is not how we approach life. We always blame, the idiot boss or our poor kids who never get their clothes on in time or whatever, or Donald Trump. But it's always, it's always something out there. So the first observation is that, okay, if the mind is really the main factor in how we experience life, how we experience ourselves, how we experience others, what can we do about it? Like, is there something, are we just, we're born this way, or it's our parents' fault, this is our upbringing, and now we're just stuck? And fortunately, both modern science and Buddhism agree that no, we actually have minds that can be changed through training and through applying methods that are designed to help us figure out what is actually going on and help strengthen the mental factors that we want to strengthen and lessen the ones that we want to lessen. And for me personally, I think this is something that is really, really, I think, important in modern society, because as long as we keep blaming our environments for our well-being, or also keep attributing our happiness to things that are out there, as long as that is the fact, then we will keep running after, some people run after fame, others run after power, we all run after possessions, and we keep living with the sense that, if only I can find the perfect partner, because the one I have, not very satisfactory. But if I can find the right partner, then I'll be happy. And if only I can find the right job, if I can get a promotion, or maybe I would, I should switch things around completely, get another career. But if I do that, then I'll become happy. Or, if I just get iPhone 8, then I will most certainly be happy. So, and so this is our approach. And especially the problem then is that this also leads to consumerism, where we try to buy things to acquire happiness. And the problem with that, of course, is that we're completely draining the planet of its resources. So I think both for our own sake, for our families, our communities, but also for our entire planet, it's extremely important that we start to realize where genuine happiness comes from. And sometimes there's this division between two types of happiness. And this goes back, it's not just a Buddhist thing, it goes back to the old Greeks. They talked about hedonic happiness, the kind of happiness that you get from basically satisfying your senses. If you hear pleasing words, you taste nice tastes, and you see pleasant sights, then that brings, and it does bring happiness. It does bring pleasure. Only problem is that pleasure is always temporary. It will always change. So we cannot rely on that. And the other type, the Greeks called it eudaimonic happiness. And that is a happiness that comes from within. So if the hedonic happiness is more about, what can we get? the eudaimonic happiness is more about what can we give. So to the extent that we can cultivate generosity and kindness and friendliness and openness, that will bring a type of happiness that is more lasting, more stable, and more, sometimes it's called genuine happiness. And also connected to the sense of genuine happiness is something that is one of our biggest challenges in the modern world, is that we also have minds that are extremely distracted and scattered. I don't know if maybe that's also just me, but we have our smartphones and their deadlines and their meetings, and the meetings are back to back, and it's just, and there's Facebook and this and that and Twitter, and it's just this constant stream of information, and that is creating a mind within us that is very scattered. So it's difficult for us to remain focused and present. And it turns out that is also something that is fundamental to this genuine happiness, that we have a mind that is actually not too crazy. So these are really observation from the Buddhist tradition, that we need to stop looking for happiness in the outside. We need to start looking at the factor that our own mind plays, and then we need to start working on our own minds in order to cultivate the positive qualities. And that's really where mindfulness comes in, because mindfulness is the very, very foundation of any of this. It's like if you're playing sports, the first thing you have to do is to get yourself in shape. It doesn't matter if you're playing football or tennis or anything. You need to have that basic conditioning in place. And that's really what mindfulness is all about. Cultivating that foundational, basic stability of the mind and clarity of the mind, and also relaxation of the mind. So there are, as far as mindfulness goes, there are many definitions. I don't know, just to stop talking for a while, does anyone have what would if I say mindfulness, what would you put in that word? Does anyone have an idea? What is mindfulness? And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm not looking for the Buddhist definition or anything. Just what comes to mind when I say mindfulness? What does that mean to you?
But I don't know the word in
presence. Yeah,
presence.
Yeah, presence.
That's
to be
not
present.
very much.
Yeah.
Aware.
Awareness. Yeah.
Aware, alert awareness.
Yeah. Alert awareness.
Focus on one thing.
Focus on one thing, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, sense impression instead of judgment, I would say.
Yeah. So not projecting onto things, but rather seeing them as they are. Yeah. You obviously don't need me.
Non-doing is the hardest part.
Yeah, non-doing. So I think in Western psychology, the definition that's most often given comes from Jon Kabat-Zinn, and is non-judgmental moment-to-moment awareness. But actually, it's a good definition. You could say that's one type of, from a Buddhist perspective, that would be one type of mindfulness. So it's nothing wrong with it, but but in Buddhism, the term that we're translating as mindfulness in English is it's sati in Pali, or smriti in Sanskrit. And that word actually, it basically just means remembering or memory or bearing in mind. So it's so that definition is it's just basically, wherever I place my mind, and this could be sense impressions, it could be mental things going on, but the thing is, it stays there. So just remembering what I'm doing basically from moment to moment. So you can see that this is a very useful skill to have, because what usually happens when we place our attention on something, well, we're gonna check it out soon, but most of the time it takes about 3-4 seconds, and then off goes the mind into something different. So it's really, the foundation is cultivating this ability of having a stable and clear focus on any object, any task, any mental events. But then at the same time, we want this focus to be one that is infused with ease, so that it's not tense. Because that's one of the biggest challenges, is that as soon as we try to focus on something, we tense up and we try really hard, and then we get all drained. So this is a state of mind that's suffused with ease, and it also has this quality of stability or stillness, or again, focus, you can call it. And then finally, it also has a quality of clarity, of high definition, you might call it. So instead of being dull, we're really sharp and clear. So sometimes when people start meditating, they think that, they end up in a really nice, cozy state. And this is probably meditating, it feels nice, but you're not cultivating mindfulness, because you don't have that clarity. And sometimes, you're really tense because you want to be the best at this mindfulness stuff too, because you're the best at everything else. So here we go. And that's also not a good way of approaching it. And we'll be looking at all these things. But then finally, also from a Buddhist perspective, the term mindfulness is, if it's just focus or memory and attention, that could be really useful for, say if you're a sniper, someone who goes to war and sits in a tower somewhere and shoots people. Really good to be focused, really good to be at ease, really good to have mental clarity and focus. All perfect. You're going to become a much better sniper. The more mindfulness you have, the better killer you will be. So from the Buddhist perspective, it's also very important to know that this is embedded in a framework of ethics. So we talk about right mindfulness, or samasati. So with this mindfulness, when we have it, we can also start paying attention to our own minds and see, okay, a lot of things are going on here, but what is beneficial? What is useful? What is wholesome? So in the Western definition, we have this term non-judgmental, and it's, you have to understand that the right way, because it's good to be non-judgmental, but it's not good to be a person without judgment. You have no judgment. You don't know right from wrong. So you have to be very careful there, because it's not mindfulness if it's not embedded in a framework of ethical behavior, of an intention of being, a decent human being that is good to other human beings and animals in the world. So I guess if someone is here just to become a better sniper, then maybe wrong class. So yeah, so that, and I think that is one piece that is, I have a psychology degree, so hopefully I have a sense of what I'm talking about. But that piece, the piece of ethics, is something that is usually missing. It's implicit, but it's not explicit, I think, a lot of the time. So there's also this there's this direct correlation between being an ethical person and being a happy person, a genuinely happy person, the eudaimonic type happy person. And again, I don't think ethics from that perspective is something particularly religious. It's just, if I ask anyone in here, how do you want to be treated? Would you want people to lie to you and hit you and steal from you and treat you badly and badmouth you, or just, and you would all say no, please, I wouldn't like that. And of course that's true for everyone. So just from that perspective, ethics is a very practical thing. And also when we start to practice meditation, start to practice mindfulness, we'll also see that having that ethical framework in our life will enhance and infuse our practice of meditation. You could do an experiment. If you have one day where you're just being an asshole to everyone, and then you sit down in the evening and try to do some meditation, and then you have one day where you're treating yourself and others with kindness and respect and just being a decent ethical person, and then you sit down in the evening and see how your meditation goes. And here's an hypothesis. It's just that this meditation will go better than this one. But this is you can try this hypothesis out if you want. So from a Buddhist perspective, mindfulness also needs to be embedded in a framework of ethics. Okay, so any questions on that introduction, or does it make sense so far? If I'm not making sense, please stop me. And also, if I say something that you don't agree with, please stop me and ask questions and challenge me and so on. Okay, so of course, what I just covered, you can have several courses on each and one of those topics. So I'm just trying to just provide a little bit of framework. Okay, so then what we will actually be doing throughout this course is, for the first 5 sessions, we will practice what is called shamatha meditation in Buddhism. So shama means calm in Sanskrit, and ta means abiding. So sometimes it's translated as calm abiding. But it's really about cultivating this ability of having a clear, stable, focused, calm mind. And having tried that for, I don't know, almost 20 years now, I can say that that's not easy, at least not for me. So it's really good when we start out on this journey. It's really good to do it from a place of I don't know, maybe non-striving or kindness towards ourselves and just some patience, because we do have minds that are, most of us, a bit scattered or very scattered, and we live in a world that it's not really conducive to shamatha meditation, the kind of lives we're living with our jobs, with our families, with livspusslet, whatever that is. So of course, when we sit down to meditate, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, and we need to have a lot of patience with ourselves. So for the meditation that we will be doing today in a few minutes, this is an attempt to just create a good foundation for next time when we start with the actual mindfulness meditation or the actual shamatha meditation, as to cultivate a good approach. And I think for that approach, two things are very important. And the first one is relaxation, so that we realize that this is not about tensing or striving or forcing. One of my teachers, his name is Alan Wallace, and he often tells about when he started out. He has some 40,000 hours of meditation and long retreats. And when he started out, he had this American attitude of just dig down and get to it and work hard. And he said it didn't work at all. You just burn yourself out. So relaxation, very important. And the other thing that's very important is to approach this from a place of compassion towards ourselves, a place of self-care and genuine kindness. So just be aware of the very fact of sitting down for 24 minutes with yourself, just working on your own mind. It's like a beautiful gift to yourselves. Not many people give themselves that kind of 24 minutes. So it's a place for us to relax and maybe just rejoice in the fact that we're able to sit down and meditate, and we're giving ourselves that opportunity. So try really to approach meditation from a place of genuine care for yourselves. And then beautifully, what happens is that when we have that foundation, we cultivate a lot of qualities that's also beneficial to others. So if we want to be a better spouse, a better colleague, a better human being, this is a really good thing to do. But we need to start from that place of really caring for ourselves and being curious about what does actually bring me genuine happiness, because we all want to be happy. None of us wants to suffer, and it's a completely valid desire. It's one that we share with all living beings, and it's really something to take seriously. How can I make myself happy in a genuine way?